Join us this week where we try Archer Farms Organic Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. What's going on, guys, and welcome to the Doctor's Lounge, the coffee review show for the not so average Joe. I'm here another Sunday with another coffee for you, and this one actually holds up to the slogan. This is definitely a coffee for the average Joe. Last week we did a coffee only available down here in DC, and this week we are doing a coffee that's ubiquitous. You can find this anywhere that you have a Target close by. We are doing Archer Farms Organic Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. This is a coffee that you can find. I picked it up because it was pretty cheap, $5 for the whole bag, and I thought we'd give it a try and give it a go. But before we get into actually tasting the coffee, I wanted to take a quick second to talk about something that I think is kind of an overarching theme in coffee, and I mentioned it last week during the review. I was talking a little bit about the Columbia Heights blend having this nice brightness or this acidity, and I think that might have made people say like, acidity? No, I can't do that with my stomach, the acidity. And so I want to just take a quick second to explain what I mean by acidity and how coffees kind of have different types of acidities and why this may not mean what you thought it means. So let's just talk about that for a second. Okay, guys, so why I wanted to talk about acidity in coffee is because this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. And I mean that with a pun intended because I get heartburn. And coffee is one of the things that can potentially trigger me. So I have to be really careful of the type of coffee that I'm tasting or the type of coffee that I'm drinking every morning because I don't want to have an acid attack in the middle of the day. That will make me not happy. In order to understand acids and understand where they come from in our coffee, we have to go way back to high school chemistry. An acid, by the Bronsted-Lowry definition, is a chemical compound that donates a proton. So let's imagine your imagination. Little fuzzy dead cat here for my microphone is a proton. Any chemical that goes into our body that is broken down can actually donate these little guys to different places. Now, in our mouth and on our tongue, on the rugae and the folds of our tongue, these little guys can activate taste bud receptors and give us some pleasurable taste sensations like that acidic feeling that we get when we bite into a lemon. However, in other places in our body, these little guys can wreak havoc, like in our stomach where we already use these guys to break down the food. So if you are somebody who already has a predisposition to having high amounts of acid in your stomach, adding more acids from a coffee or from a tomato soup or from any other food, citrusy foods, can set you off and give you acid attacks. So you need to be careful about the types of coffee that you buy. And you may be asking yourself, well, what about coffee actually causes there to be acid? That doesn't make any sense. Well, the coffee beans themselves have different types of acids. Acetic acids and formic acids are found in most types of coffee. But the other thing is the way that a coffee is prepared. Coffees can be prepared in natural drying ways where they let the beans sit out and dry, or they can be prepared in washed ways where they let them soak in water. This washed way actually keeps some of the body of the coffee there, and by nature of the fact that the beans have acid, some of those acids translate over into the finished product, and you get a more acidic tasting coffee, which can be desirable, but maybe not for you guys that have acid reflux. The last thing is the roasting process that influences the amount of acidity. Too light of a roast or too dark of a roast can actually impact the natural amounts of acids that are there. So what I'll say is that if you're somebody who's sensitive to acids, don't let that completely deter you, but definitely be cognizant of the fact that certain coffees out there will have higher acid contents than others. Don't pick ones that set you off and that cause triggers. Stay towards ones that have a lower type acidity that may not bother you. So, now that you've gotten your science lesson for the day, let's get back to tasting coffee. Okay, so hopefully that kind of explains things a little bit better and gets you in the right frame of mind. But let's get right back in and talk about the coffee that we're going to be tasting today. This is Archer Farms Organic Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. Yirgacheffe is one of those buzzwords that you might hear a lot with specialty roasters, and it's kind of like, you know, an area or a region in Ethiopia where a lot of coffee is coming out of. I think even Starbucks has an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, and that's all that Yirgacheffe means, is that we're talking about a region in Ethiopia. And they are really famous for one type of coffee, and that's their washed coffees. I think when people hear Yirgacheffe, what they're thinking about is the really famous washed variety of those coffees that are very bright and are very acidic. And if you're somebody who has acid reflux or a sensitivity to acid, that may be something that you kind of like shy away from. I will tell you that this is not one of those coffees. This is actually a naturally dried processed coffee. And Archer Farms is kind of like a subsidiary of Target. It's under their brand, and you can find this pretty much anywhere. And I think it's an interesting coffee. It's okay, and I wanted to taste it here today so that we can talk about it. So let's just get right into it. Let's dive right in, and let's talk, as we always do. Let's start off with the aroma of the coffee. It's really interesting. When I smell this coffee, it's not a bold aroma like our Columbia Heights blend was. This isn't something that like smacks you in the face and really kind of says like, hey, here's this like strong smell profile. It's very tight. You got to really get your nose down in there to even really smell anything at all. And what I'm smelling is kind of a syrupy sweetness on top of a little bit of like a berry flavor. And it's kind of odd, but I would equate it to smelling like a cough syrup, and not like in a bad way, but that's kind of the smell that I get, which is odd. So I mean, there's not really tons to talk about with the aroma, unfortunately. So if you're somebody who likes to be in bed and wait for your coffee to kind of like that smell to wake you up, this one's probably not going to satisfy you as much as maybe the Columbia Heights blend was. But let's dive into the taste and see if maybe it has some more things to offer in the taste. Okay. So the taste of this coffee is, it's okay. I mean, I'm not going to rave about it and say that it's the best thing that I've ever tasted, but it's actually okay. It's decent for $5. The front end of the coffee is very kind of syrupy, honey-like in its mouthfeel. And on top of that, you get this really subtle hint of a sweetness that's almost like a berry. So that kind of cough medicine-y smell that you're getting translates over into that first initial taste of the coffee. As you swallow it down, it finishes smooth, it's not harsh, and then on the trail end, on the exhale, you almost get a kind of like chocolatey smokiness on the back end. I have to say that I did not have a ton of expectations for this, but it's actually a little bit better than I thought it was for $5. And if they have more bags of it and I'm at Target, I might actually grab it. But it is what it is. It's a $5 coffee. It's a mass-produced. It is single origin. It is organically grown, but it's okay. It's all right. In terms of the caffeine content in this coffee, I will say that that's one thing that if you're looking for something to get you up and go, this is a light roast, and they put a little cheetah here on the front of the bag, and I think rightly so, because this coffee definitely has a lot of caffeine. I had a cup the other day, and I definitely felt it almost instantaneously. So if you're somebody who's very sensitive to caffeine, this might be one that you want to stay away from. And in general, stay away from the lighter roast coffees if you are somebody who's sensitive to caffeine. Price-wise, we already talked about it. You can't beat $5 for a bag of coffee. I don't care where you go, Giant, Wegmans, Tops, whatever supermarket you're shopping in, $5 for a bag of coffee is cheap, no matter where you are. And $5 for a single origin, organically fair-traded coffee that has a decent flavor profile is a really great buy and a steal, in my opinion. So I can't really knock it for that. The acidity of this coffee, since we talked about acid, is actually pretty mild. I thought that this was going to be a really bright, acidic coffee coming forward, and it's really not. So if you're somebody who is sensitive to acid, you might be able to get away with this coffee. It may not bother you. If you're somebody who, it doesn't matter what kind of coffee you drink, it's always going to bother you, well, then this probably isn't the right show for you. But this one, the acidity is very toned down. I think you can tolerate it. And if you guys are at Target and you see it and you want to try something a little bit different, go ahead and pick it up and give it a go. I mean, you can't go wrong for $5. That's less than a latte at Starbucks. So thanks to you guys for tuning in again. This week we're gonna have some more episodes coming up. I got some things coming from Phil's Coffee. I got some things coming from some local places around here. La Colombe is coming very soon. That's like my favorite coffee place. And so you guys definitely hit the subscribe button, hit a like, leave me a comment down below, and let me know what's in your cup this morning. Thanks for tuning in to the Doctor's Lounge. We'll see you guys again next week. And remember, just because you're house staff doesn't mean you have to drink house blend.